My wife of 9 years was cheating with 3 men. Her third AP was murdered. The DNA test kit was supposed to be a fun Christmas gift, one of those ancestry things where you swab the inside of your cheek and find out you're 2% Viking. My wife bought 2, one for each of us. We did them together, laughing about what we might discover. 6 weeks later, the results changed my life forever. My results came back first, pretty boring, mostly European with some surprise Eastern European ancestry. When my wife's results arrived, she grabbed the envelope before I could see it. Weird, but I didn't think much about it. That night, I woke up at 2:18 a.m. and found her side of the bed empty. Downstairs, I heard quiet crying. My wife was at the kitchen table staring at her laptop. The ancestry results open. When she saw me, she slammed it shut. "What's wrong? Bad news in your family tree?" I joked. "Nothing, just surprised by some results." Her voice shook. The next day, she left her laptop open when she went to shower. I am not proud of looking, but something felt a little strange to me. What I found wasn't ancestry results. It was a panicked email to someone named Danny. The DNA relatives feature matched me with your cousin. He can see we're connected. My husband might see too. We need to talk. DNA relatives feature, my stomach twisted. I did some research and learned these tests can connect you with biological relatives who have taken the same test. People who share your DNA. Why was my wife afraid of being connected to some guy's cousin? I created my own account on the site and checked her matches. There he was, Danny, possible first cousin once removed. In his profile picture, he looked eerily similar to someone I'd seen before. Then it hit me. At last year's company picnic, a man whom my wife introduced as her colleague's brother. They talked for a long time while I played volleyball. The resemblance was unmistakable. I dug through our photo albums and found a picture from that day, zoomed in on the guy in the background. Same face as this cousin Danny. But why would she be panicking about being DNA matched with her colleague's brother, unless he wasn't her colleague's brother at all? Over the next week, I went down a rabbit hole, searched our credit card statement, found hotel charges on days she claimed to be at team building workshops, discovered a secret email account when our shared tablet synced up. The email account was full of messages to Danny, intimate messages, hotel confirmations, photos I wish I would have never seen. 9 years of marriage, and I discovered my wife was cheating through a DNA test that connected her to her lover's family. But as I kept digging through that secret email, Danny wasn't the only name that appeared. There were messages to someone called Ryan and another man named Michael. My wife wasn't having one affair. She was juggling 3. I needed answers without letting my wife know I'd discovered her secret. The DNA connection was just the beginning. The emails revealed Danny had been in her life for at least 2 years. Ryan appeared about a year ago. Michael was the newest, with emails dating back just 4 months. Instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to understand the full extent of her betrayal. I bought a voice-activated recorder and hid it under her car seat. Morally questionable? Absolutely. But I needed to know the truth. 3 days later, I listened to the recording. My wife called Danny while driving to work. They talked about meeting at the usual place on Friday. She mentioned needing to keep things separate and being careful about digital footprints. Too late for that. The most shocking part was when she talked about their close call at a hotel when they ran into my cousin. He never suspected a thing, she laughed. My heart raced remembering how she'd introduced Danny as an old friend from college that day. My cousin even told me later what a nice guy he seemed. I spent a week building profiles on each man. Danny worked at an accounting firm in the city, not her colleague's brother at all. They met at a business lunch where she represented our bank. He was married with 2 kids. Ryan was harder to track down. Based on email context, they met at a charity auction I couldn't attend due to a work trip. He was single and worked as a flight attendant, which explained why their meetups were sporadic. Michael was the most recent and most mysterious. They exchanged fewer emails, mostly arranging meetings at unusual times. From what I gathered, he worked nights as a club manager. Their relationship seemed more casual than the others. What struck me was how compartmentalized everything was. Different men, different meeting spots, different days of the week. The level of organization was almost impressive in a horrifying way. For 2 years, she'd orchestrated this elaborate deception while I remained clueless. I found a burner phone stuffed way in the back of our china cabinet only because I heard something vibrate and I went looking around and found it. More evidence, more pain. Text messages to all 3 men, arranged by contact name with innocent labels. Gym admin was Danny. Book club was Ryan. Food delivery was Michael. One message from Michael read, "Getting riskier. Your neighbor saw us yesterday. Said he recognized me from somewhere." Our neighbor did mention seeing my wife talking to a work friend in the grocery store parking lot. I thought nothing of it at the time. The worst discovery came when I checked our finances. My wife had been transferring small amounts from our joint savings to a separate account. Not enough to notice immediately. $10 here, $50 there. Over 2 years, it added up to nearly $9,000. Money we'd saved for a future that was now crumbling. I wondered what the money was for. Insurance in case I discovered the affairs, funding for hotels and gifts, planning an exit strategy. While investigating the money trail, I stumbled upon something even more disturbing. A message from Michael. "Can't believe Dee threatened you. Don't worry, I'll handle it. No one talks to you that way." What kind of handling was Michael planning? And which man was Dee? Danny. And why was he threatening my wife? The web of lies was more tangled than I imagined. 2 weeks into my investigation, breaking news interrupted regular programming. A local club manager found dead in his apartment, apparent homicide. The victim, Michael Westfield, 34. My coffee mug shattered on the kitchen floor. The news showed police tape around an apartment building downtown. A reporter stood outside, explaining that neighbors heard an argument followed by gunshots. No suspects in custody. My wife walked in as the reporter said Michael's name. Her face went white. Her phone slipped from her hand. I asked her what was wrong. Nothing, just shocking news. Violent city these days. She excused herself and locked herself in the bathroom for 40 minutes. I heard muffled crying and slightly silent phone conversations. The next morning, police officers knocked on our door. They were interviewing people connected to Michael, having found my wife's number in his phone. I pretended this was the first I'd heard of him. My wife claimed Michael was just a client from the bank. The officers asked about their relationship, asked her whereabouts the night of the murder. She provided alibis. She was with me, watching movies. Technically true, though she'd stepped out for wine with the girls earlier that evening. After they left, she was visibly shaken, made excuses about needing air, and disappeared for hours. I used this time to search the house thoroughly. In the attic, inside an old suitcase, I found more burner phones, handwritten letters, a small notebook with dates, locations, and initials, D.R.M. One letter from Michael mentioned taking care of Dee's threats permanently. Another referenced jealousy issues between the 3 of us. The local paper ran a follow-up story about Michael, known to police for minor offenses, suspected connections to loan sharks and gambling, not just a club manager, but someone with dangerous associate. My wife's behavior grew increasingly erratic, jumping at every phone notification, checking windows when cars drove by, coming home with red eyes from crying. 3 days after Michael's murder, I intercepted a text on her burner phone. Police questioned me about M. Did they talk to you? We need our story straight. Meet tomorrow, usual spot. R. Ryan was still in the picture, apparently coordinating with my wife about police inquiry. That same day, our neighbor mentioned seeing police at Danny's house. Just making inquiries, he thought. Danny's wife was upset, he added. Had no idea why police were interested in her husband. Meanwhile, my wife told me she needed to visit her mother for the weekend. Her mother confirmed the visit when I called to check. They'd clearly aligned their stories. I tracked her phone's location to a motel 3 towns over instead. The police returned, asking more detailed questions. They'd found photos of my wife on Michael's phone. She was now a person of interest, not just a witness. I maintained my role as the clueless husband, showing appropriate shock at these revelations. The detective gave me a sympathetic look as he left. "We'll be in touch, sir. This must be difficult for you." He had no idea I'd been building my own case for weeks. That night, the local news reported a breakthrough in the investigation. Security footage showed 2 people entering Michael's building the night of the murder, a man and a woman. Faces unclear, but their height and build matched certain persons of interest. My wife came home late, reeking of alcohol. For the first time in our marriage, I felt afraid of the person sleeping next to me. Who was she really, and how deeply was she involved in Michael's death? After 3 weeks of gathering evidence, with Michael's murder investigation ongoing, I made my move. I consulted with a divorce attorney first, securing my finances and documenting everything. Then I prepared for the confrontation. I chose a public place, a quiet corner table at a coffee shop downtown. No scene, no drama, no violence, a place I felt safe. When my wife arrived, I had 3 folders on the table, 1 for each man. "What's this about? I'm running late for work." "Sit down. We need to talk about Danny, Ryan, and Michael." Her face collapsed. She looked for exits, then reluctantly sat. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to know everything." I opened the first folder. "Danny, 2 years of hotel receipts, emails, and your secret bank account." "Ryan, the flight attendant you met last year." "And Michael, the murdered club manager you claim was just a bank client." She stared at the evidence, speechless. "Police have been to our house twice. They know about your connection to Michael. What they don't know yet is your connection to the other 2 men, or the threatening messages, or the money." Tears started flowing, but I felt nothing. My emotions had burned out weeks ago. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, as she claimed. Which part? The cheating with 3 men, the secret bank account, or Michael's murder? I had nothing to do with what happened to Michael. Then explain the text from Ryan about getting your story straight for the police. Explain why you lied about visiting your mother. She tried different tactics, blamed me for being distant, claimed it started as just an innocent friendship with Danny, said Ryan was a mistake after a fight we had, insisted Michael was just exciting and different, and the $9,000 insurance in case things went bad. Things are bad now, sliding a 4th folder across the table, divorce papers. She begged for another chance, swore she'd cut off contact with the others, promised therapy. I simply gathered my evidence and stood up. The police have reopened their investigation into Michael's death. New evidence points to a crime of passion, possibly involving someone he was intimately connected with. They'll be contacting you again. Her face went pale. "I don't know or care if you were involved in his death. That's between you and the authorities. What I do know is our marriage ended the moment you chose to betray me, not once, but repeatedly, with multiple men." As I walked away, she called after me, "You don't understand what really happened." Maybe she was right. Maybe there was more to the story. But after 9 years of marriage, I deserved truth, not elaborate lies. The divorce proceedings began immediately. My attorney used the evidence to secure a favorable settlement. The murder investigation continued, with my wife remaining a person of interest, though ultimately charges against her were never filed. Ryan was eventually arrested as an accessory after police found evidence linking him to the crime scene. Danny's wife filed for divorce after learning about the affair. He tried contacting me once to explain his side. I blocked his number. 7 months later, the divorce was finalized. I sold our house and moved to a different state, starting fresh. The DNA test that uncovered the truth sat on my shelf as a reminder that sometimes the most devastating discoveries come from the most unexpected places. My story ended up on the local news briefly, Banker's wife questioned in love triangle murder, but public interest faded as new scandals emerged. For me, though, the scars remain. 9 years of marriage were destroyed by lies, 3 affair partners, 1 murder, and a DNA test that left more questions. Some family trees are better left unexplored.